Hi, peeps. You're listening to She's My Cherry Pie, the baking podcast from the Cherry Bomb Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jessie Sheehan. I'm a baker, recipe developer, and author of 4 baking books, including Snackable Bakes. Each Saturday, I hang out with the sweetest bakers around and take a deep dive into their signature bakes. We're airing a special episode from the archives today. It's my chat with Pooja Bavishi, founder of Malai Ice Cream, a Brooklyn-based brand that has become beloved for its bold, beautiful flavors inspired by South Asian ingredients. Pooja joins me to talk about her lifelong passion for experimenting with aromatic spices and unconventional flavor pairings, and her debut cookbook, Malai, Frozen Desserts Inspired by South Asian Flavors. We also dive into the Malai Drumstick recipe from the book, which incorporates spiced peanut crunch ice cream, Jaggery Cones, Peanut Chikki, and magic shell. It is the perfect treat for a summer day, so stay tuned for our chat. You can find today's recipe at cherrybomb.substack.com. The new issue of Cherry Bomb magazine is here. The theme is Game Changers, and we have 5 different covers featuring 7 superstars who have changed the game in a major way. This issue celebrates the visionaries, innovators, and changemakers who are reshaping the world of food, drink, and hospitality. If you're a subscriber, you'll receive your issue in the mail soon. Not a subscriber yet? Head to cherrybomb.com, subscribe, and get issues delivered directly to you. You can pick up an issue at one of the great bookstores and culinary shops that carry Cherry Bomb, like McNally Jackson and Kitchen Arts and Letters, right here in New York City. Let's chat with today's guest. Pooja! So excited to have you on She's My Cherry Pie and to talk Malai Drumsticks with you and so much more.
Yay. Thank you so much for having me, Jessie.
So first, I would love you to tell us about an early baking memory or just like a sweet eating memory. So it can be something you baked or just a sweet you remember eating. Please share.
Well, I would say my first earliest baking memory of me baking on my own was this white chocolate cheesecake. I had caught Mrs. Fields from like Mrs. Fields Cookies on a TV show, on a cooking TV show. And she was making a white chocolate cheesecake. And it just looked so delicious. I wanted to be a part of that in some way. And so I asked my mom to take me to the grocery store to make it. She's like, yeah, of course, try it on your own. And from like beginning to end, I was 10 years old. I completely made this white chocolate cheesecake on my own without any help. And cheesecake is kind of like a difficult endeavor to take on as your first baking project. Like I cut it too soon. There was like this filling and a topping and it didn't work. And it was basically this extremely soft version of a cheesecake with crust scattered all over. And I had given a piece, if you want to call it that, to my parents and my sister. And they just loved it. I don't know. Obviously, I was 10 years old, so I didn't really put 2 and 2 together. What I remember from that time is that, oh, cool. Like I made something and it made them happy. That's cool. That's a good feeling. I love the hospitality behind it. Like as I've thought about this, I love the idea of providing that happiness, providing joy. You can do that through desserts. You can do that through, offering something to someone you love or something you love. And so I love that feeling.
I think you have a recipe from childhood that your mom used to make for you that you've described as like your ultimate comfort food.
Yeah, the last meal I would ever eat.
And I believe it involves some roasted millet bread and some yogurt and maybe some heavy cream. Can you describe this deliciousness to us?
Yeah, sure. The region where my family is from in India, it's called Gujarat. It's like in the western part of India, the state where Bombay is. And the food it's not really in the States. It's not in restaurants. It's not really marketed as Indian food in the Western sense. So it's very homey. It's like not flashy at all. It just feels like simple, good home cooking. That is just my comfort food that as any child never appreciated it as a young person, but like this is my ultimate comfort food now. There's this one dish. I mean, the type of bread is called rotlo. And it's this millet bread that is super simple. Like even the ingredients, it's just water and this flour, this millet flour. And the traditional way of making it, you don't even roll it out. You hand pat it and you put it on a dry skillet and you roast it on both sides. And then my mom roasts it even further to make it crisp directly on an open flame. and then smothers it in yogurt, but not just yogurt. It's like whole milk yogurt with a splash of heavy cream. Like it's just like it's really decadent yogurt. And then it soaks in and it becomes, I want to say soggy, but that's not really, that's not.
Almost like tres leche
Yeah,
vibes.
like it's like soaked,
Yeah.
right? Like it's just that the bread becomes soaked and it's very savory, very dairy forward and just so delicious. There's like the exact optimal time that you soak it. It's about an hour and 37 minutes. It's like something like that I love. It is my ultimate comfort food. I love it so much.
Okay, now that we've talked about baking and sweets memories and comfort food memories, I wanted to talk to you about spice memories. I've read about your lifelong passion for experimenting with aromatic spices and unconventional flavor pairings. And I think there's an early chai drinking or smelling memory that maybe got this all going. Can you tell us about your parents drinking their chai and what little baby Pooja was doing?
I mean, this is just like a weird thing that children do. I don't know if this is just me or everyone else. My mom has made chai every single day for as long as I can remember, and she still does. It is fact. It's just like true. Like this is what I believe, that her chai is the best in the world. I started drinking chai young, but we wouldn't have straight up chai. Like my mom would dilute it with milk, and so me and my sister would have the chai and milk. I just loved the smell of chai. You couldn't get that smell with the dilution of milk. And so my parents would sit around the table eating breakfast and, you know, they would pour themselves a cup of chai and they would make this milk chai concoction for me and my sister. And then I would get up out of my chair and go over to my parents and just like stick my nose in their cup of tea. And they just like would look at me.
Yeah.
Just like be like, all right, this is Pooja doing Pooja. I loved it. I honestly did this with coffee too. There's something about like comforting drinks that like I would want to smell it. I would want to smell it and like get the full sensation of it. This is like a total true story, but like I would do this every single morning. I didn't know how much that shaped how I thought about flavor and like the nose about it all. I don't know. Like it's something I did from a very, very young age. It was very weird and I still smell my chai to this day.
Well, I love, first of all, that you've said that your life would be very different without chai and that you kind of developed your hybrid identity through chai. Can you unpack that? A hybrid identity?
Yeah. I mean, so I think everyone lives hybrid identities, first of all. No one is just one thing. Everyone's hyphenated in some way, right? That early memory, like that's way before the cooking shows and all of that, right? That I would do that. And it just felt so homey to me. It just felt like home. Chai in general is something that I have been fascinated by since I was a child. Not only like when I smell it, but when I would go to India, this is not like when I was super young, I was a little bit older, but I would ask all of my aunts how they would make their chai recipe. My extended family all makes it the same way, but everyone's tastes a little different. I would just like sit there and watch them. And like chai is so ubiquitous in India. It's like so common that they would look at me as if I were insane when I would ask to watch them do it. They're just like, it's just chai, you know? But it's so like it's
Tell
so
us
special.
just for people that don't know, maybe including me, like what are the components? What's going into chai?
Yeah, so this is controversial. Please know that in my family's chai recipe, you boil water with sugar and the chai spices. Our blend of chai spices, our family's blend of chai spices, which is actually the same blend that we use at Malai's masala chai ice cream, is very ginger heavy and it's very black pepper heavy. And then there's also cardamom, cinnamon, and cloves. And if it's available, then some long pepper as well. And so those spices plus sugar plus pieces of ginger root, like fresh ginger. And, well, depending on who's making it, if I'm making it, I don't add my mint in now, but like my mom would add in her mint at this point too. Mm-hmm. Let that boil. Then take about the amount of water that you have, take about a third of that. And that's how much milk you need. It's either whole milk or 2%. And you pour that in and let that come to a boil. At this point, I would add in my mint leaves, but my mom would have already done it. Mm-hmm. And you let that come to a boil. And then when that comes to a boil, you add in your tea. And it's black CTC tea, like it's very specific. Mm-hmm. And you let that boil 2 or 3 times until you've like achieved this color. It's a very simple process, but it's also like very regimented. This is how you make chai. And like that doesn't vary from one aunt to the other. Every aunt felt that way. But they also were just, every single one of them, they were just like, Pooja, You're a little crazy.
I think it's fair to say that you have like a food-focused family. That's my like way of getting out of saying foodie, because I hate that expression, but food-focused family. Like there was varied food in your childhood home. And you've said that your mom wasn't a dessert maker, but she did make cheesecake and granola chocolate chip cookies from the back of her favorite cereal box, which I love. She was making Indian food.
Yeah, 2 to 3 times a week.
She was making at home. You guys were not going to an Indian restaurant.
I mean, we would occasionally, but like on a regular basis, she made home food.
And did she have like lots of cookbooks around? Like was little Pooja also like nose in the cookbooks or no?
No. There was this one cookbook that she had from India that she would only consult when she wasn't making Gujarati food. Mm-hmm. But when it was Gujarati food, it was all her and like her memories. But she also would call my grandmother or she would call my aunt in India and be like, do you remember we used to make this? How do we make this again? You know, like that kind of thing. Or her own sister who lives here. She still does that, actually. Now it's sprinkled in with like a little bit of Instagram videos and a little bit of YouTube videos as well. Again, how we consume food is so different. What I most remember is that she has this notebook where she would write down recipes, including this like granola chocolate chip cookie recipe, right? Like including that where she found or heard of or knew these like very specific that weren't in her head, these very specific recipes. And that she would consult more than anything else in terms of like a cookbook. I started getting cookbooks. That's when we started getting cookbooks in the house. Like I just love cookbooks.
But how old were you?
Probably starting in high school is when I started like you know.
But this whole time it wasn't like you were like, I think I want a career in food.
Well, it's not like I was actively thinking like what my career in food was or if I want a career in food. What I did know is that for as long as I remember, I would say, I want to explore this career, I want to explore that career, but I eventually want my own dessert business. And I would always, always say that, you know, because it was always in the future. It was never in the present. I never had to get to it, if that makes sense, right? It's like, oh, yeah, I'll get to that. I think it's still in the future.
If you love our show, did you know that we publish a free baking newsletter every Saturday to correspond with each new episode? Check out Cherry Bomb's Substack to subscribe to our She's My Cherry Pie newsletter today, where you'll get exclusive insights about my guests on the show, their recipes, and other fun baking news and tips. Plus, check out our other free newsletters, where you'll find the latest food and fashion news and browse through our recipe catalog, which is filled with some really great recipes. While you're there, consider becoming a paid Substack subscriber to get access to exclusive content from Cherry Bomb Magazine, invites to our monthly Bomb Squad meetings with industry pros, and discounts to events like our annual Jubilee Conference. A subscription is just $6 per month or $55 a year. Learn more at cherrybomb.substack.com or click the link in our show notes. So I thought this was interesting. I read that you feel like, or you are, always kind of nostalgic for the heritage and culture of your parents and kind of almost longed for their childhood. And I thought that was so interesting because you went to high school. I think you said it was you and maybe one other Indian kid in the whole school. And a lot of people have these experiences, I think, that they've shared with me or I've just read about where they feel kind of othered. Yeah. Like people think the food they're eating is strange or whatever. I don't want to put words in your mouth or anyone's mouth. But it almost sounds like you never felt that way. You loved everything that you came from and almost were not jealous of your parents, but like longed for that. Did you have that experience in school, though, where your mom packed you something and you were like, I don't want this in my lunchbox?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, the truth of the matter is I don't have the greatest memory in the world. I don't have these distinct memories of feeling othered or otherized or any of that. In fact, I kind of always just knew who I was. That said, it's almost the opposite. The reason why I longed so much for like my parents' culture is that outside of my home, I didn't really have exposure to Indian culture. We didn't have a community where we were, and the only other Indian people was really my extended family. I had my cousins and I had my aunts and uncles, and that was really it. And so it was almost like I felt a little bit more self-conscious and othered when I was in Indian communities.
That's so interesting.
I wanted to get closer to the culture because I wanted to feel accepted, but not the other way around. It wasn't like I didn't feel accepted in a non-Indian community. It was the other way around. It was all in my head, honestly. Yeah. I think that Malai came about is because it was a way for me to tell the story of who I am and really own it, right? This is who I am, and I'm showcasing it through these products that are loved by all, not just an Indian community or not just, right? It's universally loved, and I'm able to tell my story through it. And that's kind of cool. I think that that's what I was honestly waiting for when I was, always wanting that dessert business. I was waiting to tell my story.
Yeah, and it's such a good one. So Malai, which means cream of the crop, which I loved. You've said that you always kind of knew in your head, I'm going to have a dessert business, right, one day, even though you didn't know it was going to be ice cream. Did you always know it would be called Malai?
No.
So did Malai come from your ice cream business?
Once I knew that it was an ice cream business, it was always Malai.
I love it.
Yeah, there was no other names that I considered.
All right. So I know the concept came from a Friendsgiving dinner party in 2014.
Yeah.
Were you at NYU's business school then?
Yeah.
That's what I thought. And it was the first time you'd ever made ice cream with Indian spices for this Friendsgiving. So you were like the dessert person. Like they were going to, of course, going to have you bring dessert to Friendsgiving. Mm-hmm. Tell us, I know the flavors, but I hope you'll share them with us. First of all, were you always making ice cream's ambitious? No. Were you always making ice cream? Or was it literally your first time making ice cream and your first time putting Indian spices in?
It wasn't my first time making ice cream. I had made ice cream a couple of times before. It was like a handful of times. I didn't really make ice cream. But I had made a sticky toffee pudding and an apple crostata for Friendsgiving that year. Every year I hosted a vegetarian Friendsgiving. Those were really great times, and I should really bring it back. But I always made the dessert. And I was like, I have this ice cream maker. Why don't I just make some ice creams to go along with it? Just like everyone, I'm assuming, I won't speak for everyone, but I'm not separating my kitchen or my pantry to be like, these are all of the Indian spices. This is my Indian side. And this is, and so I just had a spice rack and pulled 2 spices. And I was like, I think that these flavors would go really well with the 2 desserts that I made. So I made a ginger root ice cream using fresh ginger root. Very simple, still on Malai's menu in the cookbook. And then I also made a star anise ice cream. Did not even know star anise very well. I had the spice. I just thought it was so beautiful. And I knew that I had used it sporadically before, and I thought it would just go so well in a dairy-based ice cream.
Honey, whose recipes were you using?
I wasn't using, I was definitely using someone's recipe. I can't even remember.
Okay.
But I was definitely using someone's recipe for a base, and then just was experimenting with these mix-ins, right? And then made these ice creams, served it alongside the dessert, and I would always get feedback from my friends because I made dessert all the time, and I would have them over for dessert all the time. This is so good. This is amazing. But the feedback I got for this ice cream was, I've never had anything like this before. I don't think that this exists. That's what triggered this thought in my head that this doesn't exist in the mainstream market. Star anise and ginger ice cream didn't exist even in an Indian store, right? It made me think that I so naturally pulled these spices that were so familiar to me and put it in something very accessible, really fun, really approachable like ice cream. Then maybe there is a market out there. Maybe we do want to kind of change the way that ice cream is perceived. And so that's what started all of this.
I also thought to myself, and maybe you said this and so I'm just copying you, but I also thought to myself, it gives me the chai vibe because it's one of the things you loved about chai was the dairy with the Indian flavors. And this is just cold dairy with Indian flavors, right? It's you came
there's
full
something
circle.
So comforting about dairy mixed with sugar, mixed with spices. And that is what I would literally inhale, right? From my parents' cup. There's nothing that feels more like home than that combination of things. And so, yes.
And I also always say, fat carries flavor. So, really when you're making a recipe and you have vanilla in it or any kind of extract, you should really be adding it with your butter or your oil. It's the same idea. The fat in the ice cream is a great carrier. Talk about a way to get a bold flavor. It's with
butterfat's such a conduit, right? And
I love
so it's just it carried spice so beautifully.
Yeah. And I know this is just probably because you're Pooja, but it's so impressive to me and confusing that you knew, I'm going to do ginger root. I'm going to do star anise. You just knew to combine Indian spices and flavors that didn't maybe normally go together. Just because you have
these ice creams were not, they're delicious.
Yeah.
But they weren't Malai 2.0. They weren't we weren't doing raspberry cumin yet.
Right.
I wasn't doing that, right? It was a single star anise ice cream. It was a single spice star anise ice cream and a ginger root ice cream. But that's the thing, right? When you have a beautiful spice, a beautiful add-in like that, and you're flavoring it well, and you're letting that spice shine through, it's enough.
We're going to segue into talking about your incredible book, which I love that it's purple because my latest book is purple too.
I know. And I told you that when your book came out.
I love that. And also Paola's book
I know.
is purple too. So
we're
purple.
trendsetters.
Purple. So first I wanted you just to describe the ice cream because it doesn't have any egg. It's handcrafted and churned with very little air. So I just had all these questions like, why is it eggless? Why is the lack of air important?
So the ice cream's eggless. So going back to your question of like what ice cream base were you using for Friendsgiving? Like I said, I don't remember exactly what that was, but that started because that started the whole like maybe I should start this ice cream business. I started researching a lot of different ice cream bases. And obviously there's so many out there. I knew that I wanted to create my own. Like I wanted Malai to have its own ice cream base. Experimented with a lot of different kinds, including ones with egg yolks. And egg yolks, first of all, have a flavor. And I really wanted the spice or the ingredient that I'm flavoring the ice cream with to be the star. So that was one aspect of it. And then the second aspect of it was I'm pulling from my culture here. And there's a lot of Gujaratis that are traditionally vegetarian and don't consider eggs to be vegetarian. And I didn't want to pull from my culture and then make this exact product be inaccessible to so many people of that population. And so I made a decision. It was alongside the fact that like I was trying all of these different ice cream bases that everything out of Malai would be eggless. And so correspondingly, everything in the Malai cookbook is also eggless, which I'm really proud of. It's worked out.
I love it. I mean, we're going to talk about it in a little bit, but the ice cream recipes are so unbelievably easy. It seems like that can't be ice cream. Because you think of ice cream as tempering eggs and this and that and cooking the base on the stove until when you lift up your spoon, you can draw a line in it with your finger. It just – so I'm excited for the listeners to hear about
Well, also, I want this cookbook to not be intimidating.
Yeah,
and
not.
There are certainly some flavors that require an ice cream machine, or some recipes, I should say, that require an ice cream machine. But there's so many recipes. I was so cognizant about the fact that like I don't want people to not get this book because they don't have a certain piece of equipment. So there's so many recipes that are like condensed milk-based ice creams, or you literally go and buy the ice cream to make this fabulous ice cream dessert. I hope that it doesn't seem like it's just an ice cream maker cookbook.
It does not.
Great.
Okay, the cookbook. So the book highlights your first-generation experience and celebrates ingredients and spices of your background. Tell us what that means.
Yeah. I mean, I always say that these flavors and these products are authentic to me and to my story. I'm not trying to represent anyone or anything else. But that said, I had this goal from the very beginning of when I started Malai, and it's true in the cookbook and it's true now for the company, which is I want to change the way that ice cream is perceived in this country. These are South Asian flavor profiles, obviously. That's the angle at which we're coming from. But these are American flavors, and they should be accepted as such. It's not like, I want to get an Indian ice cream cookbook. I'm getting an ice cream cookbook. And these should be pantry staples. And these are ingredients that should be known. And we should be experimenting with them and playing around with them.
Love. The ice cream we're going to talk about today, why are some of the recipes vegan? Are they vegan because they're better if you're using a non-dairy product? Or are some ice creams vegan at Malai because you just want to make sure that everyone gets an opportunity to taste a Malai ice cream?
Yeah, honestly, it's the latter.
Okay.
I understand the need for vegan ice cream, and we want to be as inclusive as possible. But all of our sorbets are so satisfying and so refreshing in the summer. It's not like we're trying to just appease a population. That's not at all what we're doing. We're like with our vegan ice creams and our sorbets, we're making a really good product, and they happen to be vegan. And we want to make sure that, our vegan customers have choice, number one, but also they're as good as our dairy product. That's the other thing that's really important to me, which I think we've succeeded on.
All right. So the recipe we're going to talk about is for Malai drumsticks.
Yeah.
And drumsticks are like an ice cream cone that you get that's wrapped in paper, and you get it from the ice cream truck.
So
correct?
Delicious.
Can you please, on the off chance people think we're talking about a chicken, can you please just describe a drumstick for us from the ice cream truck, from Mr. Softy?
Yeah. So a drumstick is a waffle cone, and it has a little chocolate nugget on the bottom of the waffle cone. It's then filled with vanilla ice cream, and then it's dunked in a chocolate magic shell, so it has like a chocolate coating, and then it's sprinkled with peanuts on top. It is so good. so sad. Like, I would eat one right now.
Me too.
It is delicious.
Me too. So this is the Malai version of the Mr. Stuffed drumstick. Okay, so the recipe is very easy but labor intensive.
Correct.
There are many components, but that's okay. And you almost didn't even want to put it in the book because you didn't want people to like freak out and be like, oh my God.
Yeah.
But you had such a personal experience with these drumsticks during the pandemic with your sister that you felt like you had to. And can you just tell us a little bit about?
Yeah, so Malai in Brooklyn, our scoop shop in Brooklyn opened in March of 2019. We had our first year there, and then in March of 2020, we had this big first-year anniversary party. It was so fun. And we made all of these different treats, including this like a mini version of this drumstick, and we were sharing them. And I remember that we had heard about this thing called coronavirus, and we had bottles of hand sanitizer. Probably a week later, we were forced to shut down. Obviously, like we all remember that time. It was so crazy. It's so crazy to think about that time. But I obviously had to close down Malai, and we had all of these leftover treats from the party that I brought over. Me and my sister were living together at the time. I brought over to our apartment. We had all of these leftover ones. Like, we had a few leftover, but then we also made some more. And they're super labor intensive, but they filled the time with joy, right? At a time when like we could hear were like ambulances outside, and like, you know, we couldn't leave the apartment, you know, drive to Malai, which usually takes 20 minutes, and I would get there in 3 because there was just like no one on the road. Like, all of that stuff that if I think about now is just so insane. But we made more, and we would have one together it was like our happy hour. We would have one every day until they ran out. We actually never made more. I mean, everyone remembers like that lockdown period, right? That beginning. And I just feel like these drumsticks got us through.
Yep. I love that. So these call for a spiced peanut crunch ice cream. Which was the ice cream when I did a dessert collab with you at Malai? That was the ice cream.
I know.
I love. But you have always loved peanut butter ice cream.
Oh, my God.
I need you to tell us about your go-to order at TCBY.
Yeah, so TCBY is like my childhood ice cream spot, and I would get the parfait. It would be golden vanilla yogurt. Actually, I think they would put a sauce on the bottom. Anyway, I would alternate between chocolate and peanut butter sauce, and I would alternate between Reese's Peanut Butter Cups and Reese's Pieces. And it was this really decadent sundae that I would get every single week, and I loved it. I probably would love it still today. But I do love anything peanut butter flavored, and so I love the spiced peanut crunch ice cream.
I love it too. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to make our ice cream. Mm-hmm. And it's vegan ice cream. So in a saucepan, we're going to combine coconut milk, and then we're going to add cane sugar. Yep. And I wanted to know, how is cane sugar different from granulated sugar?
It's just an edit my editor made.
Interesting.
Yeah, she made that specific note.
Interesting. But it just
all cane sugar is granulated sugar in my cookbook.
Oh. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
So I was going to ask brand, but I don't think I need to ask what the brand is. Then we're going to add some corn syrup. And I know that's an invert sugar, so I am assuming it's there to reduce iciness, et cetera.
Exactly. Invert sugar is needed for scoopability, to keep ice cream like nice and soft and doesn't become that brick.
Is that like a tip? Not that anybody would ever make any recipe for ice cream except from the Malai cookbook, but if they were not, is that a tip, like add a teeny bit of corn syrup?
You won't actually find an ice cream recipe. Like a good ice cream
always
recipe,
has it?
It always will have it. Yeah, you need the invert sugar. Otherwise, it's just, you know how like if you were to freeze milk and it's just like hard and icy? That's what it would be.
Okay. Would you use corn syrup with like a no-churn ice cream, or does the sweetened condensed milk take the role of
exactly.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Just to continue that, with no-churn ice cream, you have sweetened condensed milk and whipped cream, and we don't need the corn syrup there because that sweetened condensed milk is doing that for us. We're also going to add creamy natural peanut butter. So we're talking unsweetened, and we're talking with like the oil?
Exactly.
And the oil isn't like tricky to...
No, it's not. It adds the stabilization. It's kind of weird when you use the no stir kind. Mm-hmm. So you want like the natural peanut butter, and then the fat from the coconut milk, and that will like.
So basically, we want to stir our natural peanut butter if the oil's on the top.
Exactly, just like you would for any kind of use. You don't want to add the excess oil.
I got you.
But you don't want the no stir.
Okay. Then we're going to add star anise. You buy it whole and grind it in like a spice grinder or a coffee grinder. We're going to add salt. Are you a kosher salt person? So when I see salt, I know it's kosher.
Correct.
Awesome.
And I will call out when it's table salt.
Okay, perfect. Yep. And then we're going to add a little bit of, or not a little bit, we're going to add some cayenne pepper.
Yeah, it is just a touch, actually.
Okay. And we're going to heat all of this over medium heat, and we're going to be whisking occasionally. Is there a type of whisk or a brand of whisk? I know it's different in a kitchen at work versus home.
I mean, if you can, like those flat whisks that you can get, it's nice to get that because of the syrup and the peanut butter and like the sticky substances to make sure you're getting the edges of the pot.
Yep.
But if you can't, I mean, it's not a big deal. You can also alternate between a whisk and a rubber spatula.
Yep. And so we're going to be whisking occasionally until everything is melted and well incorporated. We're not bringing to a boil. Are we looking for a simmer?
Exactly.
A few tiny bubbles are okay, but we don't want to boil. But once it's homogeneous, we're going to remove it from the heat and let it cool to room temp. And I just wrote, how can this be so easy? Like, that's amazing.
Yeah.
I love that
but
is
that
the
is
ice cream base. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now we're going to transfer the cooled base, once it's cool, to our ice cream maker. I wondered if you had a favorite brand for people at home.
So honestly, when I started Malai, I just used the attachment on a KitchenAid. Ice cream makers are not created equal. So you can use a freezer bowl attachment for any ice cream maker. The only thing with that is that you have to freeze the bowl beforehand, and you often have to freeze it overnight.
Yeah.
So you have to prepare. You have to have that advanced preparation. You can also get compressor ice cream makers, which makes ice cream in an instant. You don't need to do any kind of preparation.
That was my wedding present from my parents, so I still have one.
That's amazing.
Incredible.
They're so incredible.
Oh, my God.
But they're also cost prohibitive.
And
right?
they're huge.
And they're huge, and they're heavy.
Yep.
Literally, I started Malai on a freezer bowl attachment, so I feel like that's plenty.
Yep. Great. So we're going to transfer our cooled base to our ice cream maker, churn according to the manufacturer's instructions. We're going to add some chopped raw peanuts. So 2 questions, brand, source.
So honestly, I get my peanuts from the Indian store. They're raw peanuts that also have the
kind of red.
Yeah, they like what
am I thinking? The skin almost.
The skin. Yeah, exactly.
And we're going to add those chopped peanuts during the last 5 minutes of the churning. Then we're going to place this in the freezer to freeze completely while we go and make some other components. But that was so easy.
That's so easy.
Right. Now we're going to make the Peanut Chikki, which we will end up, once we have some magic shell in our cones, we're going to coat that magic shell in this Peanut Chikki. But first we need you to tell us what it is and when during the year and where you are snacking on it.
So Peanut Chikki is a brittle. It's peanut brittle, and the only difference between the peanut brittle we get here and Peanut Chikki, which is a very Gujarati food actually, is that Peanut Chikki is made with jaggery instead of sugar, which jaggery is like a South Asian sugar that's a little bit softer. It's brown sugar and molassesy, and it's made with ghee instead of butter, so the clarified butter.
Is light or dark brown sugar actually a good substitute for jaggery?
Yeah, there's this deep molasses flavor that you get with jaggery that you don't get with brown sugar. It's a little bit more complex than brown sugar, but absolutely, if you can't find, you can find anything online these days, so you can get jaggery. If you don't want to get it or if you can't find it, dark brown sugar is a good substitute.
And you've said that jaggery can be either a block that you're kind of shaving off, but maybe a little bit easier for folks might be, it also comes in, you described it as a powdered form, but
powdered form meaning that is what it's called. It's called powdered jaggery, but it actually is like brown sugar.
Okay, so powdered makes me think 10X or confection sugar, but it's not.
Yeah, exactly.
Perfect.
So like powdered jaggery is actually kind of a newer thing, probably in like the past 10 to 15 years. Otherwise, you only got jaggery in this block form.
I got you. Particularly, you're eating Peanut Chikki.
Uttarayan,
It's an Uttarayan festival in January that you were often at with your family when you were little, or maybe still go, and that was like
I was there last year for Uttarayan. So it's this kite flying festival in Gujarat where it's starting to become spring. Everyone's on their like rooftops flying kites. It's super fun. But Chikki is... And there's different kinds of Chikki. There's Peanut Chikki, but there's also sesame seed Chikki, and then there's like rice puff Chikki, like kind of like Rice Krispie treats. So many different kinds, but you have it only in the winter. It's a winter treat, and so you munch on it while you're flying your kite.
Now we're going to talk about how to make it, but I did have a question. Why not crush Chikki and put it in the ice cream?
So at Malai, that's what we do. But the reason why I just felt the drumstick recipe was so overly complicated. And so I actually changed the Spice Peanut Crunch recipe because of the drumstick recipe. I didn't want people to feel like, you can avoid, you don't necessarily have to dip your drumstick into the chikki if you don't want to. You can also do crushed peanuts. You can make it easier for yourself.
Which means you wouldn't have to make it at all. But
Exactly.
if it was a component of the ice cream,
then you would have had to make it.
I got you.
Yeah.
All right. So to make it, we're going to line a sheet pan with parchment paper. We're going to spray the parchment with cooking spray. And then I thought this is such a brilliant brittle tip that I did not know about and have never made brittle this way. But then we're going to tear off an equal-sized sheet of parchment, spray it on one side, and set it aside. And that is going to be what we're going to place on top of the chikki when we're ready to roll it out.
Yeah, I think this is honestly me not coming from like a cooking background. I didn't know how fast you have to make candy. Like it's just everything moves at such lightning speed. And so I just needed it to be faster for myself and like not burn myself in the process. And so I had a kitchen manager who like showed me this and she was like, oh my God, Pooja, like for you to do it, just put it on top and let's just roll it out quickly.
It's so great.
Yeah.
I think I usually pour it out and you're right, it starts to set almost immediately and then you're like trying to hold the parchment down and use a spatula to spread it and it's like too thick in the center.
And then it sticks to the spatula.
Yeah. No, I think that's so brilliant. Okay, so now in a saucepan, same kind of saucepan we used when we made our ice cream.
This is like very important to make sure it's heavy bottomed.
Heavy bottomed.
Yeah.
Heavy bottomed saucepan. We're going to combine the jaggery, which we just talked about, which we could find in an Indian grocery store or we can buy it online.
Correct.
If we can find the powdered, which we probably can, teeny bit easier. But if you want to go old school Pooja style, get your block.
In this particular recipe, and I note where powdered jaggery should be used, but in this particular recipe, the block just tastes better.
Okay, good to know.
Yeah.
Good to know. Love. So get your blocks, peeps. So we're going to combine the jaggery with some ghee. Is there a brand?
So I make homemade ghee, but
okay.
There's obviously so many different kind of brands of ghee. Any one of them.
Right. And ghee is clarified butter.
It's a little bit more of a process than just clarifying, but like you can buy this at Whole Foods. You can buy it anywhere.
Great.
Yeah.
So we're going to combine the jaggery, the ghee, kosher salt, and we're going to place over medium-high heat, and we're going to whisk the mixture constantly until it registers 300 degrees Fahrenheit on our instant read thermometer. Do you have a preference?
I don't have a preference on instant read thermometers. I do like the digital ones a lot better.
The probe ones are great.
The probe ones is like what I tested everything on just in case anyone has that one. But obviously there's like much more chance of variation here.
Yeah, I feel you. Okay, so we're going to move quickly. We're going to stir in some skinless raw peanuts, finely chopped. Mm-hmm. We bought them at the Indian store. And then we're going to carefully transfer the mixture to the prepared sheet pan, put that sprayed piece of paper on top, cooking side down, and then using a rolling pin and working swiftly, we're going to spread that peanut mixture evenly over the sheet pan because it's hot and it's going to harden quickly. Type of rolling pin that you like?
I would say that a thicker one, like a big one.
Do you like handles as opposed to like a dowel that narrows at the end?
So the only thing I would suggest is that if you have the one with handles, that it doesn't hit the side of the baking sheet. Like that can often be a hindrance.
Yeah.
So if you have a more compact one, it's easier to get to the corners.
Like a 12-inch one or something is easiest. Okay. Okay, good to know.
This is going to take a little bit of effort and strength, and so you just like want to make sure that it has enough.
Or I bet you could turn the sheet pan so that the long side is facing you, and then because I'm picturing it long way.
Yeah, absolutely. You can do it that way too.
Perfect. Now we're going to set the pan aside to cool. We'll remove that top sheet of parchment. Once the chikki's cooled, we'll lift it off the pan and break and chop it into pieces. Mm-hmm. Do we want it pretty tiny since we're kind of dipping the cones?
You actually like want to crush it a little bit because you're dipping the chocolate shell in.
Can you do that with your hand? Usually brittles.
No. So you want small pieces with your hands and then you just like pound it.
Yeah. Okay, next we're going to make our Jaggery Cones. You almost didn't include the recipe in the book. It has a lot of steps for that reason maybe, but also because you worried that readers would not have a waffle cone maker or a cone mold. But the flavor was so delicious that you were like, we have to include it. And people can do this in a frying pan, and they can mold the waffles around bowls and make waffle cone bowls.
They sure can.
Yay! So peeps, do not worry if you do not have, your waffle cone maker and your cone mold. In a saucepan, we're going to whisk together some jaggery, some granulated sugar, yes, or cane sugar, cornstarch. Why?
Usually cones have egg whites in them. And so this is going to replace like that stabilization.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Nice. I have an egg substitute that is cornstarch plus water. And I know it's an egg substitute, but I didn't think about the cornstarch being the stabilizer the way an egg white is a stabilizer. Mm-hmm. Pooja is dropping science. Okay, so in the saucepan, we're whisking together jaggery, sugar, cornstarch, kosher salt, unsalted butter, and water. And we're going to place all of that over medium heat. We're going to whisk constantly until thickened, 2 to 3 minutes. At this point, still you like that sort of flat whisk or less important here?
Less important here.
Okay. It's almost like we're making a pancake batter or something. We're going to whisk until it's thickened, about 2 to 3 minutes. Then we'll remove from the heat. We're going to whisk in some all-purpose flour, some baking powder until smooth, and then the batter should kind of be like pancake batter.
Yep.
And we'll add a little water if it's too thick. First, I'm going to go through what we would do if we had a waffle cone maker, but do not fret because then I'm going to go through what we'll do with a frying pan. So we're going to preheat our waffle cone maker, if we have one, to the color setting of like around 4. I don't have a waffle cone maker, so is there like this big 1 to 10? Like how dark do you want your cone?
Yeah, it's actually the one that I have is 1 to 5.
Oh, great. Okay.
So we'd want it pretty dark.
Want it dark. To color setting around 4, we're going to lightly brush both the grids with some oil. Is your preference grapeseed?
Yeah.
Why?
Neutral oil. Just because that's what we've always had
Yeah.
at Malai. And
Yeah.
so don't want to differ from that.
I remember Christina Tosi always talking about grapeseed oil when she was on the pod.
Really?
So, yeah, I actually now have it. But sometimes I'm still using up some vegetable oil, but I need to change over to just grapeseed. People seem to love it.
Yeah, I don't have a reason.
Yeah, interesting. So we're going to spoon 2 tablespoons of batter onto the center of the bottom grid, close the lid, bake for about 1.5 minutes, open the maker, and then with a fork, we'll carefully lift the waffle from the grid. Or if you do not have a waffle cone maker, we're just going to heat a frying pan over medium-high heat, lightly brush with the grapeseed oil, spoon 2 tablespoons of batter onto the pan, and then using the back of a wooden spoon kind of spread it probably into as thin a circle as we can
Exactly.
get.
So the difference between that waffle cone maker and a frying pan is that because you're not only spreading it on the waffle cone maker and then also pressing it, you can get it really, really crisp. You also have heat on both sides, right? So you get it really crisp. With the frying pan, you're not going to get it as crisp.
Yeah.
So what's really important is spreading it as thin as possible. So at least one side, you will flip it, but at least one side is going to like immediately hit that heat and get as crisp as possible.
So now we're going to let fry until brown on the underside, about 1.5 minutes. Then we'll flip and cook on the second side until lightly browned. So 3 minutes total. And like you said, it's not going to be as thin and crispy a cone, but that's okay. So now, if we have a waffle cone mold or a cone mold, we're going to use a clean dish towel to protect our fingers from the heat, and we're going to roll the waffle cone around the mold, pinching the bottom, and then I guess you kind of hold it to set it, and then slide the cone free of the mold, set aside to cool, or we're going to make waffle cone bowls. So this is my question. If I want a waffle cone bowl, am I just grabbing a bowl and placing it inside of that?
Yeah, you're basically like tucking this pancake waffle into a bowl.
Okay.
And the bowl itself is becoming the mold.
Okay.
So you're just like tucking it in and letting it come evenly around the sides
Yep.
of whatever size bowl you want, and then letting it cool directly in that bowl.
So it's kind of the same thing. Let it cool about
Exactly.
10 seconds or so, and then take it out to cool completely.
Yep.
Love. You can make like tiny ones and little ramekins.
Exactly.
They'd be so cute. I love a drumstick. Okay, now we're going to make magic shell. So first, I don't think we have ever discussed magic shell on the podcast. So please tell us what magic shell is.
So magic shell, I'm sure a lot of people had this as a kid, but it's basically the sauce that you pour over ice cream. As soon as it hits the ice cream, it hardens and it becomes the shell for the ice cream. And it's really satisfying when you bite into it. It's like crunchy. But what's really cool is that you can make it at home with 2 ingredients that you likely already have. Any kind of flavored chips, chocolate chips, but butterscotch chips, peanut butter chips, anything, and coconut oil. And you just melt the 2 together.
What's so great about magic shell is that it's coconut oil and it's chocolate, and both behave similarly when they're heated up or when they're at room temp.
Exactly.
And so it's the perfect magic shell combo.
And frozen, clearly, because as soon as it hits something frozen, they both immediately harden.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. So here, what I love is we're going to use some ground cardamom in our magic shell, but you make all these great suggestions like fennel and butterscotch, rosewater and white chocolate. So I loved that.
They're so good.
So in a makeshift double boiler, it's what I said. I mean, if you have a double boiler, great. But basically, Pooja wants you to have like a pan of like a little bit of simmering water on the bottom and then a bowl that fits nicely on top of it. We're going to combine some coconut oil and some chocolate chips.
With coconut oil, there's refined and unrefined. And with refined, you won't taste the coconutiness of the coconut oil. And with unrefined, you will. That's just a preference of what you would like.
Do you guys ever chop up chocolate, or you just tend to use chips?
At Malai, we chop up chocolate.
Yeah, but for here, you're saying chocolate chips. I love that. And percentage? Semi-sweet?
Yeah, I think
Dark?
semi-sweet's always the easiest and, most accessible.
So we're going to combine coconut oil, some semi-sweet chocolate chips in a bowl that's going to be over this pot of simmering water, so it's either glass or metal. Do you have preference?
I usually do glass.
Glass?
Yeah.
I love glass bowls. And we're going to place over, but not touching, simmering water. So maybe we have it at like medium heat.
Yeah, I mean, you just want to watch this. You don't want the water to evaporate.
Right.
So yeah, low, medium.
And we're going to stir occasionally, maybe with a spatula, just until the chocolate and oil have melted and the mixture is smooth. We can also do this in the microwave, 30-second bursts on high, stirring after each. And then we're going to remove the heat, stir in the cardamom. Set the sauce aside for like 10 minutes because you want it to cool slightly.
You don't want it to be like piping hot when you dip the ice cream into it.
Great. Still warm, but not, and obviously still liquid.
Melted, yeah.
If you leave magic shell on the counter and you never put it on something cold, because it's chocolate,
it will harden.
It will harden.
Yeah.
That's what
and if it does, you just need to pop it back in the microwave or on a double one.
Right. We've come to the moment where we assemble our drumsticks.
We're finally here.
So we're going to place 6 short glasses in a 9-by-13-inch baking pan. Is this just so it's easier to transfer them to the freezer?
Well, and to stabilize the cone. Yeah. I just want to take one big tray in and out.
Smart. So all these glasses, which will stabilize our cones, go into this 9-by-13-inch baking pan. Then we're going to place a Jaggery cone in each or bowl. Oh, so if we're doing bowls,
then you can just put like plates on.
Perfect. We can just put the bowls right into the 9-by-13.
I mean, honestly, yes.
But let's pretend we had a waffle cone maker. So we're going to place a Jaggery cone in each glass, and we want to make sure that the top edge of the cone is like 2 inches taller than the rim of the glass. And we're going to pour 1 tablespoon of our magic shell into the bottom of each cone. Why do we put it in the bottom of each cone? To mimic a drumstick?
To mimic a drumstick.
Love it.
Yeah. It's going to provide some insurance that the ice cream won't melt through.
Well, it won't come out the bottom. Yeah. Then using a spoon, this is to pack our ice cream inside our cones, like a ice cream scoop or just a regular kitchen spoon?
Use a kitchen spoon. Okay. I just find it it's so disappointing when you have a cone of ice cream.
Yeah.
And then you bite into the cone and there's no ice cream in the cone.
Right. And you want to push it all the way to the bottom. So do you want the ice cream to be a teeny bit less than frozen solid?
Usually kitchen freezers are at a temperature where you can scoop right out of the freezer.
Perfect.
You actually don't want it to be too warm.
Right, because you don't want it to be too messy. So we're using a spoon. We're packing the ice cream inside the cones, making sure the ice cream touches the sauce on the bottom of the cone. And that's because we want to have every bite be a ice cream bite.
Well, and also as soon as the ice cream touches that sauce, it's going to start hardening.
Right, and then it won't leak out the bottom.
Correct.
After we pack it in, we'll form like a domed scoop on top using an ice cream scoop.
Yeah.
Then we're going to place the filled cones in those, well, they're already in the glasses, in the freezer for 15 minutes. Then we're going to pour the remaining magic shell into a small, deep bowl or a glass wide enough to accommodate the cone that's now filled with ice cream. And then we're going to pour our Peanut Chikki into a shallow bowl. We'll remove the cones from the freezer and we'll turn the cone upside down and dip it into the magic shell. So this is my question. To cover the domed ice cream scoop on top, but are we also trying to cover the first part of the top of the cone or just the ice cream?
This does not matter to me. We experimented in a variety of ways.
Yep.
It won't affect the recipe at all. You don't need the chocolate to seal it.
Yep.
But it's just about how much chocolate you want.
Right. So you could go deep on that magic
shell. You can just go
shell
all the way down
and get it on the beginning, on the top of the cone.
Exactly.
Or it can
just be
on
the
cone
top,
part.
like a hat.
Love it. Love it. Okay, so we turned our cones upside down into our magic shell, and then immediately, before the shell hardens, we're going to roll that top of the cone that's covered in magic shell into our Peanut Chikki, coating the shell, and then set the cone back into the glass and repeat. Then we're going to send every single cone into the freezer for 30 minutes, and then it's going to be an incredible party.
It's going to be so good.
Oh, my gosh. Yum. Thank you so much for chatting with me today, Pooja. And I just want to say that you are my cherry pie.
Thanks, Jessie.
That's it for today's show. Don't forget to follow She's My Cherry Pie on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen. And tell your pals about us. You can find today's recipe at cherrybomb.substack.com. She's My Cherry Pie is a production of the Cherry Bomb Podcast Network. Our producers are Carrie Diamond, Catherine Baker, and Jenna Sadu. Thank you so much for listening to She's My Cherry Pie, and happy baking.